And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. On today's episode, we're going to look at 30 different PokeTubers and say if those PokeTubers were superheroes, which superhero would they be? I think this video is going to be a lot of fun, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. Iron Man. When you think of Iron Man, who is Iron Man? He's Tony Stark, and way before Tony Stark ever became a superhero, he was a super successful businessman, a super genius. He is one of the all-around smartest people in the entire Marvel Universe. And when I think of Iron Man, I think of none other than Mr. Pat Flynn himself, Deep Pocket Monster. Before he was making Pokemon content, he was doing a lot of other things in his life, and he was a super successful person. And more importantly, since he's been into Pokemon, he's done a lot of amazing, great things. And you look at all the success that Pat Flynn has had with Card Party. So I do believe Pat Flynn is Iron Man on this list. Superman. When you think of Superman, what's the first thing you think of? The one superhero that has more powers than everybody else. My man Superman has super strength, super speed, laser vision. He can fly. Superman could do it all. And there's only one person in this entire Pokemon hobby right now who can do it all. And that's an easy one. It's Mr. PokeRev himself. Yep, PokeRev right now is an absolute behemoth. There is nobody even close to touching PokeRev, and there's nobody as strong or as making greater content than him. So yes, PokeRev, you are the most powerful PokeTuber out there, so therefore, you are Superman on this list.
You don't make this up, bro! You don't make this up! Oh my god, the greatest moment of the channel's history! Oh my god! I might pass out! I might pass out!
Batman. What is Batman? Batman's a detective. I think this is going to be an easy one for a lot of people. Batman might not have a ton of strength and power, but he has all the resources in the world at his fingertips. And in some of the comics, people have talked about Batman as being the strongest of all the superheroes. Not because of pure muscle and strength. No, they say Batman is the strongest of all the superheroes because he knows two things about all other superheroes. One, he knows their secret identity. But more importantly, Batman knows all the other superheroes' weaknesses. The same way Superman has kryptonite, all these superheroes have their weakness. And Batman is the only one that knows it all. And Superman has talked about Batman as being the most dangerous person in the world. And who is the best detective in all of Pokemon? This is an easy one. Mr. Rattle Pokemon himself. Rattle's doing a lot of things behind the scene. You don't want to ever get on a Rattle video because you know the detective work has been put into place. So Mr. Rattle Pokemon, you are, hands down, the Batman in this hobby. Next on this list is Deadpool. And when you think of Deadpool, that is one character who says what's on his mind 100% of the time. He will never hold back punches. He will always tell you what he's thinking. And not only is Deadpool going to tell you what he's thinking, Deadpool's also one of the most powerful of all the Marvel characters. You can't destroy the guy. He keeps coming back. His regeneration powers are unbelievable. And I think this is an easy one for a lot of people. Who in the Pokemon content space holds back no punches and tells you exactly what they're thinking 100% of the time? Yes. One of my absolute favorite people, one of my best friends in this hobby, Mr. Cool Trainer Ryan himself. He is by far the Deadpool of this hobby. Next on this list is Captain America, the soldier that took the Super Soldier Serum. And if you know anything about the Super Soldier Serum, is it highlights your greatest attributes. So if you're super evil, it's going to make you that much more evil. You see what happened with the Red Skull. But if you're good and pure of heart, it's going to make you that much better. And the same way that I mentioned earlier that some people think Batman is the strongest person in the DC universe, a lot of people make that argument about Captain America. Because Captain America, again, might not have the size and the strength, but Captain America leads the greatest team of superheroes in any universe, the Avengers. Captain America is that leader because people will follow Captain America into any battle. And in this hobby, there is no person, in my opinion, that is more true of heart than, yes, Mr. TCA Gaiman Rusty himself. There is nobody that every single person that I'm going to have on this list would follow into battle faster than people would follow Rusty. That's why Rusty is the golden boy. The most pure of heart, he is the Captain America on this list. Next on this list is Spider-Man, and there's a lot of different variations of Spider-Man, but one of the variations I like the best is the Spider-Man who's very learned. He's a student, he's a teacher, but more importantly, the thing about Spider-Man above all others is Spider-Man understands one thing. With great power comes great responsibility, and he knows that it's his duty to do good. And there is only one person in this hobby that I think of above all others when I say with great power comes great responsibility, and that is Mr. Pokemon Classics himself. He is a true representation of that saying. With great power comes great responsibility, and he makes it his goal and his channel's goal to constantly educate people in this hobby and to make people better collectors, investors, or just all around hobby enthusiasts. So with that said, Mr. Pokemon Classics, you are Spider-Man. Next on the list is Mr. Fantastic. And one of the conversations people have more than all others is who is the most intelligent person in the Marvel Universe. And a name that is always brought up in that conversation is Mr. Fantastic. And when I think of one of the most intelligent, most well-rounded people in the entire Pokemon hobby, I think of none other than Mr. Danny Phantom himself. Danny Phantom is constantly doing educational videos. He is all around one of the most powerful people in this hobby, the same way Mr. Fantastic is one of the most powerful people in the Marvel Universe. Therefore, Mr. Danny Phantom, you are Mr. Fantastic. Next on this list is Professor Charles Xavier, better known as Professor X. He is the leader of the X-Men. And what are the X-Men? They're a group of mutants with varying powers, but he's able to bring them all under one roof to showcase each of their powers and make them an overall stronger team. And who in this hobby do I believe represents Professor X? Well, I believe that's me. Because on my channel, one thing I've tried to do above all others is to bring different people in this hobby, whether they're the largest PokeTuber out there or they're one of the smallest, but bring them under one roof and learn from them and have them work together as a team. So therefore, I do believe I am Professor X. The same way that Professor X is a leader of the X-Men, one of the most powerful of all the X-Men is Jean Grey. And she has all the powers of Professor X, but then some. Not only can she read minds, she also has the ability of telekinesis and to move things. And that is Jean Grey. But what is Jean Grey above all others? She's wild. She becomes the Phoenix. And when she becomes the Phoenix, she loses control of her powers. And for a long time, she kind of just goes away until eventually she comes back. And one of the people that represents Jean Grey, but not just Jean Grey, but that Phoenix mentality, I believe, is Mr. Pokemon Radar. Because I do believe he has the same mindset that I have in this hobby, where he wants to bring a lot of people together under one roof and showcase them. The only problem is Radar moved away a little bit when he became the Phoenix, but now he's back. So therefore, I believe Mr. Pokemon Radar represents Jean Grey above all others. Next on the list is Aquaman, the son of Atlantis, one of the most powerful heroes in the entire DC universe, and sits on the Justice League. Has an amazing beard, but more importantly, has an amazing mustache. Who reminds me of Aquaman in this Pokemon hobby? Well, sit back, comic book loving virgin gang, because it is none other than Opossum Bud. Opossum Bud is quickly becoming one of the strongest forces in this entire Pokemon hobby. So therefore, Opossum Bud, you are Aquaman. Next on the list, we have Doctor Strange, one of the most powerful wizards to ever exist. And one of the things that gives Doctor Strange's powers is his ability to use a lot of old artifacts. And when I think of somebody in this hobby who has more old artifacts than anybody else, it makes me think of none other than Scott Pratt himself, SM Pratt. Scott's always pulling out different things on all his videos, showing these little trinkets, things that for most people would never even known about. A lot of them are surrounded by mystique and magical powers. So therefore, Mr. SM Pratt, you are Doctor Strange. There are people out there who are definitely very helpful to these superheroes. And when I think of who is one of the most helpful people for any superhero, I think of Alfred. Alfred has the ability to get Batman whatever he needs. He's always there for Batman when he needs him. And when I think of Alfred, I think of none other than #1 mod in the game. One of the most helpful people that I've ever had on this channel. One of the absolute true greats in this entire hobby. But yeah, Drew, appreciate you. And you are the Alfred on this list. Next on the list is AntMan. AntMan has the ability to become super large or super small. And there's only one person in this hobby who's willing to move super large cards or super bulky small cards. And that is none other than Nick Old School Pokemon. Nick, you're willing to move some of the highest trophy cards in the hobby, or are you also willing to grind nickel cards and sell bulk? Nick, you are the Ant-Man in this video. Next on the list, you have Donatello. When you think of Donatello, you think of one of the most intelligent of all the Ninja Turtles. He has all the speed and the strength as his brothers, but he also uses his mind. And the person in this hobby that I think of more than anyone else when I think of Donatello is Twice Baked Jake. And shout out to Twice Baked Jake. Jake, if you're ever willing to come on this channel, you know you're always welcome. But Twice Baked Jake, you are the Donatello in this video. Next on the list is the Flash. Again, one of the most strongest heroes in the DC universe. He's also a member of the Justice League. He is as strong as they get. And who do I think of when I think of the Flash? One of the most high-strung, rapid-firing people in this entire hobby, Unlisted Leaf. Unlisted Leaf, you are the Flash on this list. Next on the list is the Hulk. And there's one rule about the Hulk. You don't want to see the Hulk when he's angry. And the person that reminds me of the Hulk above all others is Mr. Joe, Echo-Based Collectibles himself. He's an absolute monster of a man. But there's one thing I also know. You do not want to make Joe, Echo-Based Collectibles, mad. So Joe, you are the Hulk on this list. Next on the list, we have Shazam. He is easily one of the most powerful of all the superheroes because he has the power of the 7 Greek gods. But the problem with Shazam is he's ran with the mind of a child sometimes, and he doesn't use his full potential all the time. And the person on the list that I believe has the most potential but underutilizes it is none other than Leonhardt. Leonhardt, you are easily one of the most powerful of all the PokeTubers that exist, and you have the ability to be one of the greatest if you just use your powers correctly. So yes, Leonhardt, you are the Shazam on this list. Next on the list is Green Lantern. And one of the things Green Lantern does is he flies around the universe and he fights a lot of different battles. And there is one person in this hobby who's definitely spread out fighting a lot of different battles, and that is none other than Mr. Basic Trainer himself. Whether it's Pokemon, whether it's MetaZoo, Basic Trainer is a super great dude, but sometimes he can fly away from Earth and fight other battles. But with that said, Basic Trainer, you are a member of the Green Lantern Corps. Next on the list is Wolverine. Wolverine has an adamantium skeleton. He is damn near indestructible. But he also has some hairy arms. And who in this hobby also has some hairy arms is none other than Mr. Rudy himself, Alpha Investments. But not only does Rudy have those hairy arms, I'm sorry. Rudy also, you are indestructible, Rudy. So therefore, you are the Wolverine on this list. Next on the list is the Vision. And the Vision is easily one of the strongest of all the superheroes. Not only is he strong, he runs off the power of an Infinity Stone. But he's also a robot. And who is one of the most robotic people in this entire hobby? Mr. Spreadsheet himself, Dan Catch-em-all Collectibles. This is not financial advice, but Dan, you are the Vision in this hobby. Next on the list, we have the Thing and the Human Torch. And the two people that represent them are the Green Shiz and Professor Oak. The Green Shiz, you represent the Thing because I've seen you open up a pack of cards and you have some absolute massive hands. And Professor Oak, you are an absolute ball of fire, my friend. So therefore, you two represent the Thing and the Human Torch. Next on this list, we have Thor, the son of Odin, the God of Lightning. One of the strongest of all the Marvel superheroes and a member of the Avengers. And there is no PokeTuber out there who represents that sort of strength and has that lightning coursing through their veins more than Pokevault currently. So yes, Pokevault, on this list, you are Thor, God of Lightning. Next on this list, we have Jonah Jameson. And Jonah Jameson might not have any powers, but my God, Jonah Jameson has the gift of gab. And when it comes to the gift of gab, there is no person in this hobby that can talk more than my old friend, Josh, the Old Card Shop. The Old Card Shop, you are definitely, hands down, the Jonah Jameson on this list. Next, we have the Punisher. And there is very few superheroes that have been dragged through the mud quite like the Punisher. But at the end of the day, he always makes it out to the other side. And nobody represents somebody who gets sometimes beat up in this hobby more than anybody else. And that is Mr. Mason from Cardinal Gaming. Mason, you are an absolute monster. You are one of the strongest willed people in this hobby. You are the Punisher on this list. Next on the list, we have Scarlet Witch, who is easily one of the most powerful, most dominant characters in the entire Marvel Universe. Not only is she powerful, she's able to travel the multiverse using only her mind. Now, this reminds me of one person in the Pokemon sphere, and that is Jake, Mr. Pokenomics himself. Jake is doing a ton of different things in Pokemon, but not only is he able to traverse Pokemon, he's able to traverse other TCGs, whether that's 1930s Disney's, 1960s Batman, or present 2023 Pokemon. Jake does it all. Mr. Jake from Pokenomics, you are the Scarlet Witch. Next on this list, we have Wonder Woman, one of the strongest of all the DC characters, the leader of the Amazons, and sits on the Justice League. And when I think of the most powerful women in this entire Pokemon hobby, I don't have to think much further than none other than Mrs. Chloe herself. Chloe, you are doing so many amazing things in this hobby. You are absolutely one of the strongest Pokemon creators that exist out there. Therefore, Chloe, you are the Wonder Woman on this list. Next on the list, we have Nick Fury. And who is Nick Fury? He is a leader of S.H.I.E.L.D., one of the most powerful organizations in the entire Marvel Universe. But more importantly, Nick Fury is doing a lot of things in the background that people don't even know he's doing. And that reminds me of one other person in this hobby, Mr. James Z&G Emporium. James, we all know you are now leading one of the strongest organizations in this hobby, and the amount of things that you're doing in the background in this hobby are not going unnoticed. James, you are the Nick Fury on this list. The only super villain on this list is the Joker. And the Joker is a madman. And there is no madman on this list more than Max Mofo. Max Mofo is such a madman that he likes to open up sets and open up products, and he's not even familiar with what cards are going to be in it. Max Mofo, you are the Joker on this list. Next on this list, we have the Winter Soldier. Once the youthful Bucky Barnes, who was Captain America's sidekick, till eventually he was kidnapped, turned into an absolute super soldier, and became known as the Winter Soldier. And there is one person in this hobby who used to represent the absolute definition of youthful and exuberance until now he is this most deadly of assassins. Coulson, you are hands down the Winter Soldier of this list. Next on this list is Odin, one of the oldest of all the characters, but do not sleep on Odin's powers. He is easily, hands down, one of the strongest of all the characters that have ever existed. And there's one person that represents that absolute age and strength above all others. Gary, King Pokemon, you are the Odin of this list. And finally on this list, we have Cable. One of the most battle-hardened people in the entire Marvel Universe, has the ability to travel through time and has absolutely amazing resources at their fingertips. And one of the people in this hobby that represents Cable above all others is Mr. Gem Mint Pokemon himself. My man is battle-hardened. He has next to unlimited resources at his fingertips, and it might as well just be future tech at this point. Zach, Gem Mint Pokemon, you are the Cable of this list. Thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. But with that said, I don't ever ask for much. I ask for two things. One, hit that like button if you're new to this channel and you want more of this type of content. Show me. Hit that subscribe button. But with that said, as always, appreciate every single one of you. And I'll catch you on the next video.